Hi, I'm Ron, and welcome again to PopScicle, where I discuss popular culture, science, and everything in between. Today, I'll be giving my first round of Oscar predictions for the 93rd Academy Awards, which will be next year, particularly in April 2021. Now, I've actually been doing Oscar predictions for quite a while. I started way back in 2001, which was the year when The Lord of the Rings, The Fellowship of the Ring was shown. Prior to that, I had been watching Oscars as only a casual viewer, but then because I love the Lord of the Rings film so much, I began to get invested in this new thing that I just discovered for the first time in that year, which is Oscar prognostication. Basically predicting what films, what actors, what crew members will be getting nominations come Oscar nominations announcement, and which ones will win the Oscars. So it's guessing based on past history of Oscar choices or choices of the Academy members, and also based on trends, based on, of course, the quality of the film and the acting, and also on precursor awards, whether or not these films were shown and did well in film festivals, particularly Cannes, Berlin, or Venice. More recently, it's the Telluride and Toronto, which have become more important, and also other precursor awards like among the critics, Golden Globes, Critics' Choice, Screen Actors Guild, and other guild awards. So it's an exciting thing to do. It's just a hobby. Some people are wondering why I do it. A lot of people are doing it just for fun, but also there's an investment. Yes, it hurts when your favorite film doesn't get nominated when you think it should have been nominated, but there's something fun about all the guessing and then finally getting some of your guesses right and some of your favorite films actually getting well-deserved nominations. This year is very different. Because of COVID-19, the Academy has had to make some changes to its eligibility rules. For example, for the upcoming Academy Awards, the period of eligibility has been extended to February 28, 2021, when normally that would be way past the eligibility period for films being released in the Los Angeles County. And of course, the other major change to eligibility is that films don't have to be necessarily shown in the cinema or in theaters. There can be a streaming release for it to be eligible. So it has actually made things very complicated for prognosticators, especially because some of the bigger film festivals like Cannes, for instance, have been cancelled. Yes, they did release their list of in competition films, but they didn't have the traditional awards, and so we don't have any basis for, or we don't have that as a basis for determining which films have hot buzz right now, or which actors are potentially going to be nominees or winners in the Oscars. We do have some upcoming festivals in which there are hot tickets like Ammonite and Nomadland, and these are two titles that I will be mentioning among my predictions because of their good placement in these festivals and the loud buzz that's surrounding them. So that's the other thing that I wasn't able to mention, the buzz among other prognosticators, among critics, and among viewers. Those are other factors that can lead to potential nominations. But as we know from many examples, including last year's glaring example of Jennifer Lopez being predicted by virtually everyone to get her first nomination in the Best Supporting Actress category, eventually failing to get such a nomination, it's very unpredictable. Or at least some of the categories can be unpredictable while other categories are generally predictable. However, that's all been thrown in the wrench by the current situation. Nothing is predictable now. I've been making predictions for several years now in my blog called Film Otaku. The link is down below in the description box. In my predictions, I categorize potential nominees in terms of their likelihood of being nominated, not in terms of their likelihood of winning, which is what Gold Derby does. Now for this video, let's cover the screenplay categories. In the Best Adapted Screenplay category, what I'm placing at number 1 right now and what I think is most likely to be nominated is Nomadland, written by Chloe Zhao. I mentioned Nomadland a while ago as one of the hot tickets in upcoming film festivals. It's going to start its run at the Venice Film Festival and then go on to the New York Film Festival. If it does really well in those festivals as expected, then it's probably going to go all the way, given that Chloe Zhao is an indie darling and has been since even before The Rider, which made a splash last year and was an excellent film. And of course, she's getting a lot of attention now also because of a big budget film that she's helming, which is The Eternals for Disney and the Marvel Cinematic Universe. All eyes are on this film, not only because of Chloe Zhao, the writer and the director, who could potentially be the sixth woman only to be nominated for Best Director, but also because of the lead actress, just a recent two-time Oscar winner Frances McDormand, who's probably looking either at the third Oscar or at least a surefire nomination again. And also David Strathairn, who, depending on the size of his role, could get a supporting actor nomination. If all goes well with this film, we can see it going all the way to the top with Best Picture with a nomination in the Best Picture category and Best Director, again Best Actress, Best Writing, and probably several below the line awards also. Coming in at number 2 and a likely nominee for me is Next Goal Wins by Ian Morris and Taika Waititi. This is the type of uplifting sports movie that, if done right, can really stir a lot of emotion and get a lot of Oscar nominations, especially because Taika Waititi is directing it. He has just recently won a Best Screenplay Oscar for writing Jojo Rabbit, and he's pretty well respected in the Academy, having even gained nominations for short film before that. If it's released within the eligibility period and does well with critics and audiences, we can probably see it going all the way for a Best Picture nomination. Not sure about the Best Director nomination for Taika Waititi. It's probably going to be a competitive year in that category. Michael Fassbender might be a contender for Best Actor. And then there are several other possibilities among the supporting categories. One particular supporting player that we should probably pay attention to is Kaimana, who's a trans actress, and she's playing a Samoan transgender football player. At number 3, and I'm not too confident about the possibility of this getting nominated, so I'm putting it at a maybe, although the buzz is quite loud, and given that it's a Ron Howard film starring Amy Adams and Glenn Close, two of the most overdue actresses for Oscars, I'm putting it here. This is Hillbilly Elegy, and it has a pretty good chance not only of scoring a nomination in this category, but also in Best Picture. And of course, the performances of Adams and Close, we're not quite sure if one of them will go leading. I've heard some people say that they are both going supporting. They'll probably both get nominated. It's a question of which overdue actress finally gets a win between the two, unless someone sneaks in, someone like Saoirse Ronan, for example, from Ammonite. But that's for a later category, for a later video. Here I'm saying that Vanessa Taylor, who's the writer of Hillbilly Elegy, could get a nomination. Just a few years ago, she was nominated for writing the screenplay of The Shape of Water. So she does have cred within the Academy. It's not unlikely that she will get nominated for such a buzzed film. If it works, then we'll be seeing that nomination, although Ron Howard films haven't really been consistent when it comes to Oscar nominations since winning A Beautiful Mind in 2001. At number 4, and also a maybe, and this is a big maybe, being a science fiction epic, a potential blockbuster of mega proportions, is Dune. Dune, of course, is based on the book by Frank Herbert, published in the 1960s, a truly deserved science fiction classic. The screenplay is written by Eric Roth, Denis Villeneuve, the director, and John Spaihts. And out of all of them, it's Eric Roth that has a lot of nominations in the writing category. In fact, he has had 5 nominations for writing, and he has won for Forrest Gump. The other writer, Denis Villeneuve, the director, has also been nominated before but for directing Arrival, which is one of the science fiction films that has put him on the map as one of the premier sci-fi film directors. There's a lot to be excited about but a lot to be scared of also. It's coming out in December. Hopefully that pushes through, and hopefully this is the definitive Dune movie. However, as we all know, it's always an uphill climb for science fiction and fantasy despite the win of The Lord of the Rings: The Return of the King in 2003, which could be attributed more to a sweep and an emotional investment in the voters for them to give it that big prize after 3 years. And finally, a possible entry in the top 5 is News of the World, written by Luke Davis based on the novel by Paulette Giles. News of the World is directed by Paul Greengrass, who of course is most known for United 93 and Captain Phillips, and stars Tom Hanks, who was also the star of Captain Phillips. It's an intriguing story where Tom Hanks plays a Texan who agrees to help a girl who has been kidnapped. So it could make for a very entertaining but also a very dramatic movie. So it remains to be seen if it's going to be nominated in this category, especially because there are some just below it in my listing at least that would potentially spoil that nomination. Here you see numbers 6 to 10 in my listing of potential nominees in the Best Adapted Screenplay category. I'd look out for numbers 6 and 7 in particular. Ma Rainey's Black Bottom stars Viola Davis and Chadwick Boseman, who recently passed away, and so a lot of attention is going to be on it. And then number 7 is I'm Thinking of Ending Things by Charlie Kaufman, who won an Oscar before for Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind. It's getting a lot of good buzz and critical reviews. Now on to Best Original Screenplay. There are 2 that I put at most likely to be nominated, and at number 1, I put The Trial of the Chicago 7 by Aaron Sorkin. Aaron Sorkin is a favorite of the Academy. In fact, he has won out of 3 nominations in the writing category for writing The Social Network, which is probably one of the most well-regarded films despite not getting an Oscar win, which a lot of people still obsess over as not being a good statistic for the Academy. We all know how well Aaron Sorkin writes, and he writes in a very particular way with regard to the dialogue of his characters. And this one is an all-star cast headed by Eddie Redmayne and Sacha Baron Cohen, and it could potentially be an ensemble piece that could get a lot of attention at the Screen Actors Guild, probably get acting nominations across the board, well, at least for the male actors in the film, and is quite a big contender also in the Best Picture category, especially because it's going to be shown on Netflix, which is probably the go-to now for films given the COVID-19 situation and the lockdown. At number 2, and what I also consider to be a most likely nominee, is The French Dispatch, directed by Wes Anderson. The screenplay for The French Dispatch is written by Wes Anderson, Jason Schwartzman, Roman Coppola, and Hugo Guinness. Among them, they have 9 nominations. 7 of those are Anderson's, which are for writing and directing, and also for the animated features Isle of Dogs and Fantastic Mr. Fox, while Coppola and Guinness have 1 nomination each, both for writing. A lot of cinephiles are excited about The French Dispatch, especially since it was supposed to be shown at Cannes. We're expecting it to be classic Wes Anderson, so it's probably going to get a nomination, and we might see it as a major player in other categories as well, including the technical categories, because we all know how sumptuous Wes Anderson films always look and how well they're written. So it's a very likely nominee. Now at third, and I put it at likely, is Jack Fincher's Mank. Mank's screenplay is written by Jack Fincher. It's directed by David Fincher, who's another Academy favorite, and it's about the writing of Citizen Kane, which many people consider to be the best film of all time. So there's a lot here, and it's a black and white film. It's most likely going to be a major contender for Best Picture and Best Director. So I'm probably underestimating the chances of its writing being nominated. But I'm just putting French Dispatch and Trial of the Chicago 7 on top for now. That's probably going to be changed, especially once it starts showing or streaming on Netflix, which is another major plus for it. And of course, we all know that the Academy loves Hollywood-based movies. At number 4, and I'm giving it a maybe, is Sofia Coppola's On the Rocks. Trailer, pretty interesting, and of course, it's a reunion between Sofia Coppola and her Lost in Translation actor, Bill Murray. Bill Murray might be a contender in the Best Supporting Actor category, and then Rashida Jones might be a contender in the Best Actress category, although that's quite stacked this year. Sofia Coppola is an Academy darling. She's one of the few women who has been nominated for directing, and she has won for writing the screenplay of Lost in Translation. It's probably time to welcome her back. And let's hope that it proves to be the vehicle that will do that. For now, I'm putting at number 4 as a possible contender in this category, The Father by Christopher Hampton and Florian Zeller. That's because it has already been shown at Sundance and it gained a lot of buzz, particularly for the acting of Anthony Hopkins and Olivia Colman. But it's said to be a good movie also, so it might get a nomination, especially because Christopher Hampton is no stranger to the Oscars, having been nominated twice and having won for Dangerous Liaisons. Zeller, meanwhile, has had no nomination. The reason why I'm not so sure about this nomination is because coming in at number 6 is Huge Threat, which is Come On, Come On, written and directed by Mike Mills, who was nominated for writing the screenplay of 20th Century Women, an indie favorite. And here you see other contenders. At number 7 is The Five Bloods, which I originally put at number 1 a few months ago. But then it's been losing buzz, although it might regain that once people start remembering that it's one of the last movies of Chadwick Boseman. So it's still a contender, although I bumped it down to 7. And then we have Ammonite, which is a riser, and it's probably going to keep on going up, especially once we get reports of how well received it is. We're looking at the chances of Minari, which is another festival favorite at the start of the year, and this might just continue the love for Korean film, although it's an American production. And finally, at number 10, I'm putting Christopher Nolan's Tenet. Used to be in my top 5, but then it's been getting mixed reviews, so I'm not quite sure if it's going to get nominated. So these are my predictions for the writing categories. In the next episode, I will be talking about the acting categories, which are the most exciting. Don't forget to subscribe if you like what you saw and if you'd want to watch other episodes similar to this one.